WEFUNK. We funk.
Well, like we were saying, though, it's an action thriller, but we would also kind of put this into, like, the Kidnap category.
Yeah, I mean, definitely goes into the long genre of kidnap movies where the action star is seeking revenge on a blood feud, which this one does. We'll get into it in our breakdown, but it starts off mercenary and then ends up personal, as it always does.
Mm-hmm. To me, it had a very similar feel to, I don't remember, Man on Fire with Denzel Washington and Dakota Fanning.
Of course,
it
yeah.
Had a very similar feel to me as that, just the hard as nails, badass ex-Marine who then, like, heart melts for the kid he has to, like, save.
Yep. And as well, they were both in, like, a foreign country. I think, wasn't that like a Mexican drug lord or something like that?
That was in Mexico.
Yeah, and then this one is obviously in India, Bangladesh, between those two countries. So that had that kind of, feel. The one that it kind of most reminded me of, though, was still Commando. And I guess, like, all of these action movies have, are basically, have something like that. But it had the whole over-the-top action kind of feel where he was, like, more of an Arnold kind of character than a Denzel,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in that aspect, too, you could almost argue that almost every action movie is a kidnap movie in some extent. Especially in, like, the 80s, 90s ones. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, Leave a Weapon, someone gets kidnapped in that. Here's one I'll even throw at you. Was kind of toast at both of those lines, but we've been talking about already. But Spencer Confidential. At the very end, don't they kidnap Alan Arkin? Or not Alan Arkin, but
Yeah, that's true. There's a kidnapping, much like everything else that ever happens in in an action movie. That was shoehorned into Spencer Confidential as well. But definitely, there are some other, like Man on Fire kind of reminded me more of, like, Taken, which was another, like, real kidnap movie. But you're right, they're kind of like the action, crazy over-the-top kidnaps. But then there are the other kind of more, like, personal ones. Another cool one to me, I got two from the 90s, but do you remember River Wild? With Kevin Bacon and John C. Reilly were, like, the two scumbags that hijacked a family and then made them, like, canoe their way to their way to freedom.
Dude, you think that's crazy? Do you remember who the mom is in that movie?
Was it, like, Helen Hunt, right?
It's Meryl Streep.
Oh, Meryl! Jesus, Meryl Streep. Really, really going down. I mean, that was honestly like I don't know. I remember loving that movie though. Like, it gets no play in history. I don't know if that was just like a '90s classic, but I remember owning the VHS and fucking watching the shit out of River Wild.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie a bunch, guy. I guess we were the same age, it feels, but definitely the best. I'd say it's the biggest Meryl Streep banger out there.
Would that be your celebrity go-to guy, Meryl Streep? That's the chick. That's the lady from River Wild.
No doubt, dude. I'll say it since we're talking about comic book movies too. I'd say besides, like, the Iron Man movies, because Iron Man is, like, the only one in the MCU that, like, has a steady girlfriend that gets into trouble. I would say every comic book movies outside the MCU is technically a kidnap movie too. You know what I mean? Superman's always rescuing Lois Lane.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lois Lane gets kidnapped in every fucking movie. That's for sure.
Spider-Man's always rescuing that Mary Jane. Batman was rescuing Vicky Vale.
How about this for a big geeked one? Even Princess Leia. The whole Star Wars is all fucking based off of them trying to save Princess Leia. Old Jabba,
no doubt, dude.
my main man Jabba.
Well, that's the third one. I mean, the whole premise of A New Hope is they're going to rescue a kidnapped princess.
Yeah. No, for sure. Then there's, I guess, along with the kidnap, though, let me kind of flip the script on you. Yes, because it's in the same kind of genre, but this movie as well dealt with the great, like, ransom movie, which, again, usually kind of go hand in hand, but it had the big hostage feel as well, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Where it had, like, almost that die-hard action. Like I said, to me, if anything, it kind of felt more like a Commando or a Die Hard. It was basically Commando meets Slumdog in my book. But it was just that, like, action set to some type of kidnap hostage thing going down.
I mean, you're talking kidnap hostage thing going down. I'm just going to stick with the 90s. I mean, who gets more hostages than a bunch of people stuck on a bus that had to keep up 50 miles per hour until Dennis Hopper gets paid out? You know, I'm talking speed, baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what about another 90s classic when it was the exact same thing but on a boat 2 years later in San Diego? I mean,
Speed 2?
and Speed 2. But you're right, yeah, Speed was definitely Dennis Hopper had them all under hostage, and the his only bargaining rule was the bus must maintain 50 miles per hour.
For sure, man. That would be the biggest hostage movie I would do.
I mean, my favorite hostage movie, and again, I mean, another 90s classic, of course, and again, maybe even closer to Speed in some regards, but one of my all-time favorite hostage movies, I'm going to give you a couple hints. It's co-stars Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler's the drummer, I'll say.
Say no more.
And I think Buscemi's in the band, if I remember.
Hell yeah, dude. We're talking Airheads. Dude.
Airheads, exactly. Hold the record, hold the radio station for hostage. And who's the DJ? Isn't the DJ like Weird Al or like Chaz Palminteri or somebody hilarious? Like,
he's not Chaz Palminteri. It's the guy that does the voice. I can't remember. I'm forgetting his name. Joe something.
Joe Mantegna?
Fat Tony's voice on The Simpsons.
Okay, yes. Weird Al was, of course, from what, UHF or PCU or whatever was the...
Yeah. But Kramer's in that one, which also in UHF.
Oh, you're right. Kramer's a record exec in that.
Yeah.
Nice. That one is kind of like a Die Hard spoof, let's be honest, but...
That could have gone down in or maybe it did go down in our cult classics.
I think it did. That's a good call. I think somebody definitely brought that up. But another good, this was actually kind of if you took a lot of the action out of it, it was kind of similar to another ransom movie from the 90s called Ransom. But remember Mel Gibson in Ransom?
Oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah. It was another good one.
Movie.
A little bit more of like a serious, that was kind of more like a Taken, from the Taken side of things.
Well, what about, I got one that I love. I think it was one of my dad's favorites too, but remember The Negotiator with Kevin Spacey and Samuel L. Jackson?
Yep. For sure. Kevin Spacey.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one. So this definitely, it's from the whole genre of that, except with a whole fuckload more action.
Big F! WEFUNK. We funk.